What is up, guys? You're listening to the MFCEO Project. I'm Andy. I'm your host, and I am the motherfucking CEO. Guys, if this is your first time joining, welcome. Today is Thursday Thunder. It's going to be a little bit of motivation, a little bit of practicality, really just a little bit of whatever I feel like talking about. And I got a couple things I want to talk about. One is this. Okay, I know a lot of you guys follow this as an entrepreneurial / motivation / personal development podcast. And so the information that I give you always is going to be relevant to most of those things at the same time. All right. And one thing that I'm seeing over and over and over again, especially out of brand new entrepreneurs, is something that I call the shotgun approach. Okay. The shotgun approach is this. I come out with a product. I make a brand, what I think is a brand. I make a logo, because most people think a logo is a brand. It's not the same thing. I make a logo. I go out. I try to sell the product, and it goes okay. And, you know, people like the product, but they don't, you know, sales aren't going crazy. I'm not worth $100 million yet. I have to work really hard. And so for that reason, I think that what I'm doing is the wrong thing. All right. And what brings this up is I got a comment sent to me via Facebook that was basically someone who has been executing on a business and they're very frustrated because they're not seeing much progress after 4 months. 4 fucking months. Okay. I've been fucking had like injuries that last longer than 4 months. And you're talking about your fucking career. All right. 4 months is nothing. It's a speck of fucking dust. All right. You guys have to understand that things that are going to be successful are going to take time. I talk about this all the time when I talk about aggressive patience, which is the concept that you have to understand that you have to be patient, but you also have to understand that during that time of you being patient, it's a time of active patience. It's aggressive patience. During that time, you are doing every single thing, calling every single person, sending every single email, creating every piece of content that you possibly can to make your business productive. Okay? But instead, here's what we see most of the time. We see people who start out and they get 4 months in, they get frustrated, things aren't going the way they want, and so they start up another company, okay? And they abide to this rule or this idea that they're some sort of serial entrepreneur, okay? So they start another company and they do the same thing. It could be a related product, could be a not related product. Usually it's something that's totally different because they feel like they're on the wrong track because the first thing is taking time, all right? So they start up a new thing. And then what they do is they go out and they try to do the same things. They do the same things they did the first 4 months. And then they get frustrated again because they're in the same spot. And guys, you have to realize that just because something is taking time doesn't mean that you're on the wrong track. What it does mean is that your life is going to go like this if you don't understand the aspect of time. It's like running a marathon. You start off to run a marathon, it's 26.2 miles. You get 3 miles in, you say, fuck, I'm not there yet. And you turn around and you go back and you say, you know what, I'm going to start a different marathon. Maybe I'll have better results with that marathon. So you enter a new marathon, you go out, you run 3.7 miles, you say, fuck, I'm not there yet. So then you turn around and you go back to the beginning. That's what most people do their entire lives in business. Things get tough. Things get hard. Instead of persevering, instead of utilizing the time that they have to become the best at what they're doing, they decide to start over because they believe that there's some sort of natural energy or, magic that creates something that goes from zero to fucking, lifestyles of the rich and famous in 2 fucking days. And it doesn't happen, guys. You are doing exactly what the media tells you life is about. All they show is instant gratification. They show lottery winners. They show the overnight successes, but they never show the real struggle. And I see all kinds of entrepreneurs, quote unquote entrepreneurs. They're not real entrepreneurs because real entrepreneurs actually create, innovate, and have creative aspects about themselves. They're actually just business owners. But I see a lot of business owners doing what I'm talking about. They're not allowing time to do its work. And we talk about this a lot, guys, because it's so fucking important. All right? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're somebody who's on a fitness program, all right, the shotgun approach, if you're trying to achieve anything, the shotgun approach of, well, this didn't work after a short amount of time, so I'm going to try this something new, is going to fucking hold you back. All right? It doesn't matter if you're in whatever goal it is. It could be business. It could be fitness. It could be whatever area of your life. When you set out to make a big change, it's going to take fucking time. And that's the reality of the situation. Okay? So that's the first thing I want to talk about. Be conscious of the shotgun approach. I see people in my own industry who I know listen to this podcast starting brand after brand after brand after brand after brand when they don't even understand why the first brand isn't fucking selling. Okay? How can you call yourself some sort of serial entrepreneur when you have never fucking built something that is actually truly successful, but instead you keep starting over and over and over? Guys, that's a sure recipe for failure. Focus on what you do, become the best at it, put in the time, pay the fucking dues, and eventually great things are going to start happening. That's the way the world works. There's no getting around it. There's no shortcuts. There's no cutting corners. There's no secret program. There's no way to fast forward the process. It just takes time. And you've got to be patient, and you've got to be aggressively patient during the lag time to make sure you're doing every single thing you can. Okay? Now, I do have another thing I want to talk about because I basically come up with these Thursday Thunders, and you're getting 2 for 1 today because I make notes. But I feel like, I haven't been up to date on the Thursday Thunders as much, and I want to give you guys some extra value today just for being patient with me. I have somebody who I'm helping build their personal brand, and they asked me a question about, what you need to do to build a personal brand. How do you get, attention? How do you build an Instagram? We were talking through all these things. And we brought up the fact of, you have to understand that when you are building a personal brand, okay, and I just had an article, if you guys saw, come out on Inc. magazine where they talked about personal branding. It mentioned me as an example, which I thought was really cool. But what you have to realize on personal branding, guys, and we're going to have a whole podcast coming up on this on Tuesday on personal branding. But what you have to realize, guys, is this. If you don't toot your own fucking horn, nobody's going to fucking toot it for you. All right? And we're all brought up to be humble and quiet and meek and modest and all those things. And they're all admirable qualities. I understand that. But they all have specific meanings too. When you present the facts about yourself, that's not bragging. Okay? Can you present it in a way of bragging? Absolutely. But there's also a way of just letting people know what you know or what you've accomplished or what you're working on without it sounding like you're bragging. And guys, a lot of people are held back by starting a personal brand because they don't want to talk about themselves. Well, guys, if you don't talk about yourselves, nobody's going to fucking talk about you. Okay? And if you don't lead an interesting life, nobody's going to talk about you. And sometimes leading an interesting life means that other people who aren't as fucking interesting aren't going to approve. They're not going to say, "Oh, I agree with that." They're going to disagree. So what I'm trying to get at, guys, is this. If you want to build a personal brand, which all of you listening should be working on because it's going to become the most valuable asset in the next 5 years. It's going to be more valuable than your education. It's going to be more valuable than a degree. It's going to be more valuable than who your parents are, who they know, or what school you went to. It's going to be more valuable than anything. The amount of influence you have is the new resume, all right? And you guys have to understand that if you're looking to get ahead, building that right now is extremely, extremely important because the idea of everybody as a brand has not caught on fully yet. Not even at all, really. Everybody's still looking at it like there's the stands and then there's the guys on the field playing the game. And so a lot of people, assign themselves to be spectators when in reality, everybody's a brand. They just don't realize it yet. Okay? So But when I talk to people about building a brand, a lot of people are uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable talking about themselves. They're uncomfortable stepping against the grain. They're uncomfortable actually stepping out and doing something that other people might not, appreciate or approve of or like. But guys, that's a necessary action. It's necessary for you to do that. If you don't do that, if you don't step out, guess what? People have nothing to talk about. So if they have nothing to talk about, why the fuck are they going to talk about you? So by actually doing what you want to do, becoming who you want to become, becoming an interesting person, living an interesting life, and documenting that life on social media, that's not bragging. That's just being who the fuck you are, okay? Let's look at me for an example. I fly on a private plane. I drive exotic cars. I go and speak at these functions with people all the time, and I do a lot of cool shit. I race exotic cars across the country. Me posting about that is not bragging. Me posting about that is actually documenting my life. People might interpret it as bragging, but you know what? If people interpret that as bragging, fuck them. I don't really care. But what it does is it gives people something to talk about. I'm leading a life that's interesting. I'm leading a life that's relevant. I'm leading a life that people want to talk about. And leading a life that people want to talk about is the biggest part of developing a personal brand. Okay? Then what comes is you getting involved in conversations, you connecting with people like-minded, and we're going to get into all those details on Tuesday. But guys, what I want to really stress on right now is this. If you can't talk about yourself a little bit, if you can't let people know about who you are, if you're uncomfortable letting people know what you're great at in a factual way, not a bragging way, you're going to have a really hard time developing any kind of following. All right, because people want to talk about what's interesting, and there's nothing interesting about somebody who won't let people know what the fuck they do. Okay, so I'm not telling you to go out and brag. I'm not telling you to go out and fucking rub shit in people's faces. I'm not going out and tell you to make shit up about yourself. But what I am going out and asking you to do is to be authentic with who you are, who you want to be, what actions you're taking, who you're talking to, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and share that shit. And then you're going to have a foundation for a personal brand. But remember, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody else is going to fucking toot it for you. And that's it.